Tonight I'm going to talk about the two, what I believe are the loneliest words in the world, and how they've affected me and my decisions that I've made in the past and decisions I've made for the future. Okay, now when I was working in different parts of New Zealand and overseas, there was one, I used to do a little bit of sort of lecturing on motivation and bits and pieces like that. And one of the things that I always used to tell my groups of people that I was talking to was the two loneliest words that I believe that you can have in your mind as you grow older. And those two words are, if only. Now what that means is, who wants to grow old and say, if only I'd done this, or if only I'd done that? And so many of us do that. And I made a point at that particular time to think that that wasn't going to be my motto as I got older, that I wasn't going to be thinking of, if only I'd done this, or if only I'd been there, or if only, and so it goes on. So I used to make a concerted effort all the time to try and do something new every year that I hadn't done before. And most of the time it was going to a different place, whether it was here in New Zealand or somewhere overseas. Now, I'm not widely travelled, but I have been to a few overseas countries. And every time I visited somewhere new, that sort of always ticked off another box of you know, where I wanted to go and somewhere new for the year. So, but as I've got older, I've sort of let that slide a wee bit, and especially having put on weight, you're inclined to let it slide even more. Now, I decided when I took on this weight loss journey that I was going to have a rethink of all of those things that, you know, you think you're going to do one day, but you never get round to it. And then eventually you end up thinking, if only I'd done this, or if only I'd done that. And the thing is too, that if I quote the words of Eleanor Roosevelt, who said, do one thing every day that scares you. Now, she didn't mean go and frighten the hell out of yourself. She was like saying, do something that is different, that moves you outside of your comfort zone, that will help to build resilience, and it will build character. And there's a whole lot of advantages that you can gain by just doing something every day that scares you. Those things can range from going to a different place, doing a different thing, meeting different people, and so on. Now, what I've decided to do in my wisdom, as I always do in my wisdom, is I've created a new bucket list for myself. Now, this is going to be dependent on once I've got a weight down to a certain amount. Now, I've had a look at one or two of these things where they do have a weight limit, and I'm well below the weight limit, so I don't have any issue there. The only thing is that I just want to feel a bit better about myself when I go and do these things. And of course, the other thing too is, as I keep harping on about my knees, some of those activities are restricted until I've been through my knee surgery and got those knee replacements all sorted out. So I've compiled a little bit of a list here of things that aren't just going to scare me, they're going to frighten the hell out of me actually, but that's what life's all about. And, and I've always been one to never feel afraid to get outside of my comfort zone. So perhaps one of the first things that I'm going to do, and this one's not altogether, well, it's not really scary as such, but it'll get my adrenaline going for sure. And here on the Auckland Harbour Bridge, there is a walkway that you can go right up over the top of it. It's a guided walkway. You go in groups, and it's, I think the whole thing originally was organised by AJ Hackett, because he actually does a bungee jump from underneath the bridge. I'm not going to do a bungee jump. That's just not something that I've ever considered. But I am going to go and do this walkway across the bridge. That would be, as long as I've got the ability to walk, it's not going to be anything that's too jarring on my leg or on my knees at the end of that task. So that is going to be the first thing that I'm going to tackle. Now, another one that I've been thinking about for such a long time is I've always wanted to go up in a balloon, in one of those, balloon baskets. Now, when I was working the last couple of years, working online, one of the guys that was actually in the same team that I was, he did the balloon trip, and he thought it was magnificent. He was a bit scared. I mean, I guess you are when you think you haven't got a powered engine behind you, but he did the balloon. He did that over Hamilton, and he said it was just amazing. And that got me going, thinking, yes, I'm going to go up and I want to do a balloon trip up in a basket. So that one there will be probably earlier on my list than probably the last couple. That's one of those that I want to do, and as soon as I'm able, I'm going to be able to want to do that one. Now the next one is ridiculously stupid, and that is to jump off the top of the Sky Tower in Auckland. Now, I think it's 100 and something. I think I looked at it. It was 180 metres. I will check on that from the top to the bottom. But you go up in the elevator, and then you get up to the top, and you get all you're strapped into your costume and all that sort of thing, and you've got ropes all tied to you, and then you just sort of launch yourself off the plank at the side of the Sky Tower, and it's sort of a bit like a bungee, but you go down feet first, and it's all controlled by pulleys and guy wires and things like that. So it's not a free fall type thing. So that there is going to be scary. And the scary part of it will be leaning over the edge, looking down to the bottom, and just having that courage to step off. Now, I really want to do this. I don't know why, but I just really want to do this. So that's one of the more scary things that I'm going to do. Now, the other one that I've planned, well, I haven't planned it, but I've had it in the back of my mind for years and years and years. One of the things I wanted to do a few years ago was to go up in a glider. And my partner at the time was a glider pilot. And so one year at 7 o'clock in the morning on New Year's Day, we went out to the airport and he took me up in a glider and we flew over Tauranga City here in New Zealand, in this glider with no motorised power or anything, just with the wind. And I was pleased to get down, but I was so pleased that I did it. So that was one that I can recall back a few years ago. Now that was probably going back 25 years ago, I think, that I did that one. But this one, the next one that I'm going to do, it's insane. I want to do a tandem parachute jump. Now, scares me even thinking about it. And of course, I guess I'm going to have a medical certificate to say that I'm fit to do it. Having once had a heart attack, I don't want to have another one while I'm jumping out of a plane. But that's one of the things that is probably the most scary thing, and it's probably the longest serving thing that I've got on my bucket list. Now, I'd like to do it before I get to 80, if I ever get to 80. I don't want it to be the last thing I ever do. But yes, that's one thing that I'm really arguing with myself over that one. And it's good recreation, putting all these things into your mind, and it certainly doesn't let you sort of rest and think everything's all great. you've got all this turmoil going on in your mind like I have at the moment. But I really want to do this, and I just do. I really want to do this. So that's probably the last thing, but that will have to be after my knee operation, because as I hit the ground again, I'm going to need to be able to support myself as you do when you come down in a parachute. And at the moment, I couldn't do that. So once I've had my surgery and everything's all checked off as being okay, that's probably the most extreme thing that's on my bucket list. Now, what have you got on your bucket list? I've been spurred on to do this going through this weight loss program, and it has, I guess, sort of given me back a bit of confidence. It's restored a bit of the old, come on June, you can do this, you've done things before. Whereas I think I was letting myself forget about that. But now I've had to remind myself and think, right, I'm going to do this. Just because I'm in my 70s doesn't mean to say that I can't do it. If I can strap myself in or get strapped into a harness with a buddy jumper and launch out of a plane. The only part I'm scared about is getting at the door, looking out and jumping. But that all comes with it. You can't do a parachute jump without actually getting up to the door and saying, I don't want to do it, or I just want to get out. You don't want to cross that barrier, but that barrier is going to be the hardest thing of the lot. So that's my little bucket list. And I keep thinking, I don't want to get to a stage where I'm not able to do these things and say, if only I'd done that. Because that's such a lonely 2 words, if only, if only. So my recommendation to anybody is, if there's anything that you've got on your bucket list, if you're capable of doing it, don't get to a stage where you say, if only I'd done that. Just get out and do it. That's what life's all about. It's all about fun and enjoyment. And I know the world's in a crappy place at the moment. The whole political stuff is just doing my head in. But put that aside for a few minutes and just think about, what is it that you really want to do that'll scare you? Even if it's just for a day, or just think about something exciting that you'd like to do. If anyone comes up with anything that they're going to do, I'd love to hear from you. But yeah, just a little suggestion from me. Just do something one day that is going to scare you. And then you can thank Eleanor Roosevelt for that quote. So just before I go, I am going to just post up my stats, and that will just take a moment. And then once I've got to the end, I will just now wish you a happy day tomorrow. Take care and stay safe, and I'll see you tomorrow. Okay, bye.